Hello and welcome to the Cosmic Heart Podcast. This is Jessica Hope, your host, here with Domanique MamaWolf. Dominique is a member of the Klamoth Modoc tribes of Oregon, has facilitated sound journeys for over 8 years. She combines the healing frequencies of crystal bowls with native flutes, drums, and rattles. She works with the four directions, spirit guides, healed ancestors, and angels to aid in the transformation of your body, mind, and soul. Dominique is a certified sound healer and Reiki master trained by Victoria Vives Huang in an apprenticeship, in 2017. She has been leading women's circles for over 10 years as an advocate for Indigenous rights, land back initiatives, ecological restoration, and generational healing from colonialism and trauma. She helps women reconnect to their wombs, offering generational blessings and support groups for survivors of domestic violence, trauma, and recovery. Today, I would like to talk with you, Dominique, about a little bit of your backstory and essentially go over your journey on how it is that you got to where you are today. And obviously, that's a long story. So, whatever you don't get to today, we can always, talk more about in the future, but just whatever comes to you to share with the world, because I feel after observing you for many years off and on, you have a really special story to share. And I'm really proud of all the work that you've been doing. And I would just love for the world to have an opportunity to learn more about you because you're a very special soul. I wanted to start off with some questions for you that I had. And the first one is, who are the top people that you feel like have inspired you the most that come to mind?
Well, the top people that have inspired me the most, across the course of my lifetime, I have been very inspired by different Indigenous spiritual leaders. One of them is Grandma Aggie. She was part of the
Mm,
Takelma tribe, which is a neighboring tribe from Klamath, where I live, Southern Oregon. And
okay.
I actually have the privilege of living with Winsong Martin, who she is also another person that is one of my biggest inspirations. I get chills. Winsong was she was the travel aide for Grandma Aggie. Grandma Aggie was one of the 13 Indigenous grandmothers in the Council of International Grandmothers. And
Wow.
that was established in the 90s or 80s, I think. And so Winsong was her travel companion throughout all of her travels across the world. And so I got to spend quality time with Winsong and sitting in ceremony with her and preparing for ceremony with her. And she is the musical artist of a very famous song since I think she created it in the 70s. It's called Mother, I Feel You. Mother, I
Mm,
feel you under my feet.
wow.
Mother, I hear your heartbeat. So Winsong channeled that song
Wow.
and many other very well-known songs in the more of the hippie community. Um, so those two for sure. And I'm also very inspired by one of my mentors. Her name is Anna Chio Gentle Thunder, and she's part of the Dene Nation. And Anna Gentle Thunder is one of the teachers that helped me learn how to channel my voice. And
Yeah,
she taught me how to do drumming,
that's beautiful.
mostly through collaboration. So I would do sound journeys with her, and that was the first time that I began doing sound journeys. Was she does journeys with the drum, and it's just her drum and her voice. I mean, this woman is very simple but very powerful, and she is just such an awe inspiration of me. We both resonate as beings that are from the Sirius B constellation of the star nations.
Mm,
And so those are kind of my elders. Anna's, she's not really my auntie. she's my sister, like she's young, but I really look up to her and admire her. Jose Munoz is another one. Jose is a Mayan timekeeper from Guatemala, and so he is born into from the Chorti tribe of Guatemala, and
Okay.
he keeps the calendar of the sixth sun teachings. And so essentially he is weaving the past, the present, and the future together as one.
Amazing.
And he has created a community called Hummingbird Sky Island in California. And
This is a familiar soul for me.
yeah, yeah. And these are all people like I didn't know Grandma Aggie personally, but I feel like I know her through Windsong. She
Yeah.
passed several years ago. And but other than that, I mean, these are people that I know in person and that are very inspiring to me.
It's amazing.
Oh, sorry. Um, but
It's okay.
so who else is a giant inspiration to me? I can't leave this one out. It's my partner. Shuena is a poet, indigenous poet and activist, and she is just like a huge inspiration for me in terms of writing, in terms of creative expression, and indigenous activism. Uh, I could go on and on. I mean, we've got Russell Means, we've got Winona LaDuke. All those indigenous activists are extremely very inspirational to me. And Leonard Peltier, I mean, he's still in prison for something
Mhm.
that they don't even have hard evidence of him doing since the 60s. If you don't
Wow.
know about it, look up Leonard Peltier, and he is wrongfully imprisoned on from the BIA and from the Pine Ridge in
Wow.
South Dakota. So that happened in AIM, American Indian Movement, back in the 70s. So I'm
I
I'm
think I've
really
heard of
inspired by
him.
that indigenous movement, and
Definitely.
also the spiritual essence of what does it mean to be indigenous, um, and how we can integrate together as one because it's not us versus them, it's not cowboys versus Indians anymore. We're in the modern world where we have
Right.
to come together and unite as humanity, and
Right.
the time of separation is over.
Hmm. Oh,
Hope.
so that was I I love that you brought up so many people that I didn't even I so far away in my mind did I think you would bring many of the people that you brought up. So I love that. And honestly, I really hope that people look into these people more because there's so many powerful spirits and souls that are here doing the work and they just deserve so much more recognition. So I love I just love your honor. Okay, this one's a funner one. What's your favorite soul?
What's my what?
Your favorite music that you've been listening to that just calls to your soul calls you to it.
Oh, my favorite music. Oh, how's it going? Lately, honestly, it's been R&B and soul. I've been
Same.
really vibing. Yeah, like I'm a 90s kid, dude. Like
Hmm.
freaking like it really moves me. And I feel like that genre has, I mean, it has soul in the name, right? Like it
Hmm.
moves my soul and it's so expressive and emotive. I also really enjoy acoustic folk music, which people
That's
probably
fun.
wouldn't guess about me, but I really do like that kind of music. And
That's
then
great.
and then I've got my ceremony music. I love teepee songs and peyote music. Um, I've got my little rattle here that you sing your songs with as you're driving in the car, and yeah, the Native American church and peyote songs and sweat lodge songs, those types of song. I mean, the Lakota, they freaking.
I was
Whew.
just gonna ask you what tribal songs do you listen to for the Sweat Lodge, because I used to listen to a lot of Lakota music.
Yeah,
I still do
Lakota's
here
the most
and there.
popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will, and it's one of the bigger nations that didn't lose a lot of their culture. And a lot of
Yeah.
their songs were very well preserved through actually through once the Sweat Lodge was no longer illegal. I think that was
Hmm.
back in 79 that it was decriminalized to have Freedom of Religion Act.
So crazy.
Up until then, it was highly illegal and people couldn't practice their native culture. They couldn't have, uh, you know, their ceremonies. It was illegal, and they would come in and shoot everyone up. So
That's
once
so
that
sad.
became legalized and that uh, type of ceremony was opened to the white hippies, there's
Hmm.
there's the saying that I, and I don't know if it's like a prophecy. I can't remember where I heard it, but it's some sort of prophecy that's saying that the children of the colonizer settlers,
Hmm.
the second, third, fourth generations of those initial settlers will be reincarnation of Indian warrior spirits. And so then you enter in the hippie revolution and you see all these white people with red hearts that are learning how to sing Lakota songs. And they sing them
Hmm.
just as good as those big Lakota guys. I mean, I've heard this white girl like, oh man, she got some pipes in that lodge. And it doesn't matter your skin color. It doesn't matter. What does matter is the intention in your heart. What does matter is that you honor and respect this culture that you have the privilege to experience, that
Great.
the people that are actually from that culture, their ancestors did not even have that privilege. So it's a high honor. I'm kind of getting off track here.
That's
What was
okay.
the question again?
Favorite music.
Excuse me, my God. Oh, you asked what tribal songs I do. So
First
so
what?
with the TP songs, they're a lot of them they're called straight songs. They're not in any
Mhm.
particular language. They're just hey ya, like
Uh,
hey ya na,
hey
hey
ya,
ho yo
oh, hey,
way.
oh, hey, wanna, hey, hey, oh, hey, ya. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So it's
That's my
phonetic.
favorite.
It's very phonetic, rhythmic, melodic. There is not a direct translation in any specific
Yes.
language. My I am relearning my own indigenous language. Our last fully fluent speakers died over a decade ago.
Please.
So I there's a resurgence though of relearning it because it's recorded and we're bringing it back into
It's a
modern culture.
remembrance.
But a lot of our songs have been lost. There's only a handful that I know of, but I don't even know how to sing them yet. I'm still a baby in reconnecting with my own culture.
It'll be good to even sit down and channel them. Just ask them to come through you. So
Definitely.
yeah, I love that. I want to add real quick. So before we move on, I've been listening to a lot of R&B songs from when we were younger too, and it's just good. It's healing, and it connects you to your inner teenage self and your younger selves. And it's like those parts of us need healing more than ever. Yeah, there's no shame in it. Okay, one more question. I want to get to your background. So, one more question. If you could do anything with your life and money was limitless, what would you do and why?
I would buy back Indian land that is in the wrong hands, that they're trying to create landfills and monoculture farming, and I would buy back sacred grounds and give it back to the original descendants of the people that were from that area and set up trusts and like land trusts for ecological restoration. And I would essentially create land back initiatives across America.
That's a very good goal to have.
Hey, one step at a time. I'm inspired to, it's not out of reach either.
No, it's
Like I
not.
know
It's not.
I feel I'm on the trajectory now of making that happen, at least for my own tribe,
Mhm.
eventually.
I mean, realistically, getting high enough up, your voice heard high enough up in the chains of command where you can divert some of the funds that are put into areas that are really not benefiting humanity in general, and creating that initiative, something that is very capable. You could absolutely make that happen. It's just how determined you are and how far are you willing to go to make it happen. Because I mean, anything's possible. I mean, I just absolutely believe that. I really do, and I believe in you. So that would be a beautiful thing. That would be awesome.
And
Um,
on that land, I would really want it to be a safe sanctuary, especially for women and single mother survivors that are struggling, and that they would have safe, secure housing for life.
Absolutely. I meant to show you. I found this shirt. I'll show you later. It was in the thrift store. And it said it's a handprint on the front. Oop. And it says, oh, sorry. And it says, help protect our indigenous women. And it's
Yeah.
from the tribal councils. And it just happened to be in a thrift store here, which I thought was
Cool.
interesting. I know, I thought that was so
Amazing.
cool.
How
Yeah, it's
epic.
beautiful.
I love it.
I I actually bought it. Sorry, I'm plugging my phone in here. One second.
I just did the same thing.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you the floor to just really share from your heart and soul what it is that you feel you want this particular episode to be, that you're doing, what your story is as far as how you got to where you are today, and just what your journey has been in a more authentic sense, because a lot of times people hear, like, oh my God, I accomplished all these things and I'm a master of all this stuff, and you blah blah blah. Yeah, and all of that is awesome, like, don't get me wrong, but I want to give you, at least, I know you have a certain amount of time to do this, so I just want to give you at least a moment in time to share the real, raw, unedited, just how did you get to where you are now? Because as we all know, it's a journey, and we've all had quite a hard journey to get to this point here. Not laughing, but you gotta laugh at it.
No, no. I mean, God's a comedian, dude. I get it.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's story time right now, okay? So
yeah.
so buckle up, get ready to go on a little storytelling time with me about my life and how I got to where I am today. So I am a granddaughter of genocide. So my great grandma was in Indian boarding schools in
Wow.
Klamoth County. And I recently found out, I don't know that my grandma's class did this, but that boarding school, the girls burnt it down.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Rebels, badass.
Yeah,
In
that's
our
awesome.
tribe, we're matriarchal, and so the women were warriors in our tribe.
Wow.
It was actually a very reverse gender roles than the typical men hunt, women gather. We both did both, and we
Awesome.
both raised the children. Um, So, but I grew up disconnected from my culture. So my mom was taken away from her mom as a baby when she was like one. And interestingly enough, it was actually at the time of all of that stuff that happened at Pine Ridge with Leonard Peltier when my mom was a baby. And my grandpa, my great grandpa, was part of the BIA, and he was in South Dakota out there. But on the other side, he was my white grandpa. He was on, he was on that side. So there was some drama. My mom got taken by my grandma.
Wow.
and raised by these white grandparents that were a BIA cop and a super Christian school teacher. Okay, so my mom was raised colonized.
Mm.
Granted, these people had the purest hearts, were like the best caretakers of my mother, and gave her a secure, safe, loved upbringing that is invaluable to us
Mm-hmm.
as a family. So, although she was disconnected from her culture, she had a very safe environment to grow in. And I think that is why my mom and I don't struggle with addiction. My
Yeah.
mom and I don't have the patterns with alcohol and drug abuse that most natives have
Mm-hmm.
because she was raised that way and then raised me that way. So fast forward, okay, so that's just my background of like my family.
Yeah.
And then so I was born in the city and I never knew my Indian grandma. The rest of my family is white. So like I'm only an eighth native, right? Okay, so I'm not full blood. I'm not even a quarter. Like I'm an eighth. My grandma's half blood. So it's not about quantum though. The whole idea of quantum is a very colonized perspective of dilution of like, oh, well, the less Indian you get, you're not a, tribal member. And but then there's also the one drop policy of like, oh, if you have any bit of black blood, then you're black. So it's just a whole racist ideology. It's like, okay, well, make up your mind, people.
Mm-hmm.
So I was raised disconnected from my culture. I was raised as a white girl in the city. My dad was fairly wealthy. I had a pretty easy childhood, okay? Like I wasn't in a lot of abuse. I
Mm.
wasn't experiencing a lot. I did have some experiences of abuse actually. I kind of like bury it. I was
Mm-hmm.
actually abused by my stepdad, so forgot about that. So that happened. But it only happened once and then didn't happen again. And
That's good.
I think what really has molded me as a person of as I'm a white passing female and I have pretty privilege. Like I know I'm fairly attractive person. And so I have my mom is gorgeous, model, actress. So I've learned to use that to my advantage and I rejected it as a teenager. And I was like, I don't want to model anymore. I don't want to be on TV. I used to be on this TV show it was like a public access kids teen news thing. Like it wasn't like some major thing. It was minor. I was like a reporter and a weather girl.
What was
But it
it
was still TV.
called?
It was called American Teen TV Network. It was on Comcast On Demand.
That's so
Back when
cool.
we had that. I don't know if you guys remember Comcast On Demand, but before YouTube there was that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really grew up kind of in the spotlight. And I grew
Mm-hmm.
up having to look pretty, having to be perfect, having to fit the mold of wearing the itchy dress for the
Mm-hmm.
camera. And I have a lot of memories around being in front of the camera, having to smile a certain way, playing with toys in a certain way, with a certain angle I was like in magazines, like for toy ads and like weird stuff. So fast
Awesome.
forward, I moved to LA. I lived in LA for a couple years in high school, and I went off the deep end of partying. And so when I was in Los Angeles, I was in the wrong circles and I got abused,
Mm-hmm.
sexually abused specifically. And after I got that horrible experience, it was a group of 4 or 5 guys that just
Mm.
were awful to me. And after that
I can
experience, I
relate.
was crying. I was crying and crying and crying and I didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
And I told my best friend, and she was like, "We need to report them. Like, we know these guys. Like, they're not minors. Like, this is a big deal." And I was like, "I don't want drama. I don't want to deal with it. Like, I don't want to face them. Like, I just want to hide. I don't want to deal with this." So that was when my neighbor introduced me to Buddhism. And
Mm.
and I grew up pseudo-Christian, okay? So
I
I
did
was
too.
very yeah. So when you're raised in the Christian church, I wasn't a believer, to be
No, I
honest. I was
wasn't.
always like, I don't know about this. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not so sure that I'm buying this. And I was always a skeptic. And I didn't go to church every Sunday. I was like an Easter and Christmas Eve kind of kid with my mom, right? So I converted to Buddhism at 16 after I had sexual abuse, and that really inspired my desire to dive into the spiritual world because it felt safer there than the physical world.
Yes.
And so throughout my teenage years, I became a young women's division leader in the Soka Gakkai international community, SGI. I chanted Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, very powerful stuff, Japanese Buddhism. I'm from Nichiren Daishonin. And that was
Mm.
my first spiritual awakening, the first of many. And it kind of started to get churchy, to be honest. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not Japanese. I love Japanese culture. It was cool. I had my Gohanzen, my scroll that I chanted to, and it was a very powerful thing. And so what Nam-myoho Renge Kyo means is I devote myself to the mystic law of cause and effect through sound and vibration. And I still resonate with that deeply. Sound and vibration is what creates our
Absolutely.
universe.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of got churchy, like they're like, oh, sensei, sensei, sensei. And like, yeah, sensei's great, but like, what about all these other people that are like also teachers?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was in college is when I found Sweat Lodge. So I got invited to my first Sweat Lodge from one of my math tutors at college. And he was in a wheelchair and he was a very great person. And I felt like it would be a safe thing. So I show up and the guy that's leading the lodge, first of all, I'm the only woman. Second of all, it's a small lodge in a backyard. There was four guys and me.
Mm.
And it was safe. They were not acting predatory during my first lodge. And I showed up with I was working at a hair salon at the time. So I had bright blue in my hair. I had bright blue fingernails, bright blue toenails. I was like on my blue kick. And the leader, Leon was his name. He was, I think, Lakota. I'm not entirely sure, but he was like, "Oh, it's interesting you show up with all this blue on you, and I have this buffalo skull." He had a circle of all these buffalo skulls, and he goes, "This buffalo skull was a female, and we call her the Blue Moon Lady."
Huh.
And she was the in the buffalo herds, the females are the leaders,
Mm.
and they
Okay.
they lead the pack. And she sacrificed herself on a blue moon and went in front of the arrow when they were hunting them. And
Wow.
so I sat next to this buffalo skull because the lodge is split into two, right? There's the men on one side and the women on the other side. So I'm the only woman. So you've got this buffalo skull next to me. So this is my first sweat lodge, okay? And I had no idea what to expect. And so I'm sitting next to this buffalo skull and I'm connecting with the spirit of the buffalo and the blue moon and what it means to be, a feminine leader. And and it was a great lodge and it was powerful and it was moving and I cried and I loved it, right? I loved it. So Leon takes me under his wing and wants to teach me how to be a pipe carrier. He wants to teach me how to do these ceremonies. And I started feeling like something was off, right? Like he wanted to meet up at bars. He wanted to meet up at restaurants and then buy me beer or wine. And I'm like, it
Yeah.
doesn't feel right to me. I don't really like drinking. And at this point, I had been Buddhist for a while. I still drank sometimes and I wasn't sober, but I wasn't trying to like get drunk with this like
Right.
spiritual person that I thought was spiritual.
Right.
Long story short, this guy ended up being a predator at the end of the day and was trying to sleep with me. And I
Mm.
cut him off. I was like, I don't want your medicine. That's bad medicine. And I was like, I want to learn from women. Introduce me to your aunties, to your sisters. You don't
Yeah.
have them? You don't have those connections? Why not? Why are you not in connection with your tribe? Why'd you get pushed out? Why are you up here
Mm.
doing your little mini lodges in the backyard with a couple people from college? you know?
Right.
I started asking questions. And so I had to learn through experience how to ask questions with these predators in the spiritual realm.
Right.
And so that was my first experience with the sweat lodge, and that opened me up to, I also was taking an anthropology class at the time. It was called Intro to Shamanism. And that's when I learned how to journey psychically into the spirit world, to meet my animal spirit guides, to do drum journey work. And like, I couldn't believe that this was a real college class that I was taking. I got credit for it and everything. And so that's when I met my spirit guides. So then I decided that I was going to leave college. I left the Buddhist organization, and I found the flute. So
Mm.
my roommate at the time, she was one of my, also a huge inspiration for me. Her name's Esther Powers, and I love you, Esther, if you're listening to this. And she taught me the first tantric principles of energy. And she had a Native American flute. So she was a tantric priestess, worked with receiving and sending energy just in our hands, and
Hmm.
creating like manifestations at like parties. Like we like literally went to parties and we would like manifest magical things to happen. And they
That's
happened, and
something
it was real
that's
and it was fun.
something I do as well as the tantric healing work.
Yeah. And so tantric, people think it's sexual. Like, okay, yes, it can be sexual, but tantra is more about sending and receiving energy and expansion and contraction. Tantra can be
Yes.
your breath. Tantra can be a handshake. Tantra can be eye contact. It is not only sex. And
Yes,
I think a lot
tantric.
of people misunderstand that.
The tantric healing work that I do, very briefly, I'll just share real quick, is I actually assist in helping unroot the deepest rooted traumas, fear cords, fear roots, pains, emotional pains, anything that's deeply rooted within the systems of the body and the energy field. I use tantric healing to help unroot those deep rooted things and help release them. That's one of the most powerful ways I've found for healing on a fundamental level
Mm,
to expand.
that's beautiful. I love that you do that. And it's so needed. And a lot of people that have blockages and they're like,
Yes.
how do you even go about that? Like, how do you even initiate something like that? And I think a core of it is you don't need someone else to heal you, but you need someone else to light the path in front of you so you know where to step. And that's the difference between being a self-proclaimed, I'm gonna heal you healer versus a guide.
And a true master of the craft.
Right, right.
The I like to say that I am the activator and the catalyst to the healing that the soul of the person is seeking, because sometimes we have to reach out to external parts of the creator, which is the other people around us, to bring in that specific skill set that we may have not fully mastered yet, to help, hey, shine the light, it's right there, let me help you to get rid of that. And then you then are doing the rest of the work. It's just we all kind of help each other, in different areas and aspects.
Yeah, yeah, we do. And that's something that, so in my women's groups that I do, I always try and emphasize that we are all teachers, that we
Yes.
all have wisdom, that this is a council. This is not
Mhm.
somebody getting up on a podium and being like, this is how it is, and I'm gonna interject my interpretation of everything from every person. Because I used to do that, okay? Like when I first started women's circles, like I had some ego I had to work through. It's taken
Yes.
a while for me to hone the craft of being a space holder and empowering women to become aligned with their inner wise woman, with their inner wild woman, with
And
their inner like leader.
yes, I want to add
So,
really quick to
yeah.
that. Sorry, I just want to add And it took, let's on it to be share with the world. It took a certain level of being kicked in the ass to humble us down, to say, it's not my job to determine for you what your truth is, but it is my job to bring forth what I have learned and allow you to discern if it is also aligned with your truth. That took a lot of humbling for me.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. I feel like I've been kicked down, dude, so
Hmm.
many and humbled so many times. Like sometimes I've been on my knees and I've been like, Creator, why
Yes.
again do I have to humble myself like this? Like, what did I do to deserve this? You know, like
Yes.
God. And
Mm.
that's part of the path is that when we sign up to be a human,
Hmm.
signing up for the full package. And a lot of times, the people that are in the fastest, call it like a crash course on soul development, okay?
Hmm.
When you are faced with adversity after adversity after adversity, your whole life, you are on the expedited trip of soul development. And it sucks. It's like not fun. Like it's not like the most privileged people that have the most cush lives are usually the younger souls
Hmm.
that need more of that comfort in order to feel like oriented with being a human.
Yes.
Because a lot of us old souls that have chosen to incarnate at this time,
Hmm.
it's not easy out here on planet Earth. This place fucking sucks sometimes.
Yes.
And you got to be discerning and you got to be careful. You can't trust anybody. But we learn what are the green flags? Who do we know how to trust? And especially when you're a survivor of abuse,
Right.
you become hyper vigilant with paying attention to body language, tone of voice. And creates, it sometimes creates more issues being hyper
Yes.
vigilant than not.
Hmm.
And so, anyways, so to wrap up how I got to where I am now, okay, so I was disconnected from my culture in California. I moved to California. I ended up getting pregnant, having my daughter at 22, and being with this amazing spiritual man that was her dad, is her dad. Have We have great co-parenting, great respect for each other. He was a magician, and not like rabbit out of a hat magician. Like this guy worked with the archangels. He worked with the Hebrew god names, the Kabbalah, the tarot, the occult. Was
Oh, wow.
very into Egyptian magic. We conceived with Egyptian sex magic, and our daughter is like this really amazing being, right?
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, I knew I needed to reconnect with my heritage. I knew there was something in it for me. So I hadn't gone to a sweat lodge for years, right? Since that terrible one with Leon. Fuck that guy. And then and then I found this sweat lodge that I got invited to with Wolf and Lisa Wapepa down in Ventura County. And they had the most traditional Inipi I've ever been in, other than the only other one that I think was more authentic or on the same level of authenticity was the Anipis I sat in with the women Sundancers in South Dakota at Pine Ridge, which
Wow.
I went to Sundance. I was a supporter. I camped with the dancers and I was there every morning and every evening sweating with them. So
Beautiful.
that style of lodge called the Inipi
Hmm.
is where I've had some of the most profound, deepest spiritual experiences. And for those of you that aren't familiar with what a sweat lodge is, it's a you it's like a hut and you cover it with blankets and you have the fire heating up the rocks. Don't try this at home, kids.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
for professionals. Like you have to have a certain type of rock, you have to have a certain type of wood, you have to have a certain type of prayer that you create the fire with. Like this is not something for people to just like try and do on their own. It's a very serious ceremony. People can die if aren't careful. So
Yeah.
that was I would say my second spiritual awakening after my initial one as a teenager. And at this point, I'm already a mother. I'm a single mother,
Mhm.
and I'm just wanting to reconnect with my culture. And this whole time, I play the flute, right? And
Yes.
I've played the flute to the four directions. I've met my spirit guides. I got the Indian name Flute Walker from one elder along the road somewhere. I don't really go by that. It was just like a little name he gave me. But it's something that's a gift the creator has given me. I don't play the flute. Creator plays the flute through me. And I
Yes.
think it's the same for any healer.
Mhm.
Anybody that is on that in the healing arts, you're just opening your channel to Creator God, to the Most High,
Yes.
and you have a very good ability to create the protection so that other entities can't come through your channel.
Yes.
So an EP Sweat Lodge just blasted me open, and I had my first vision of the black wolf with yellow eyes staring at me. And I was like, damn, I need to call my grandma. That's my grandma. My grandma's name is Betty Black Wolf. Okay, so my
Oh,
grandma's a tribal elder. Her name is Betty
beautiful.
Black Wolf, and I went by Dominique Black Wolf for many years. Um, but I'm Domanique MamaWolf now
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I found out later on that Black Wolf is actually my grandma's late husband's last name, and he was a Yakima tribal member.
Okay.
So not my grandpa. And I don't feel comfortable taking on a identity or name of somebody that's not actually from my bloodline, unless it's my
Yes.
partner. So I had that vision, and then the next, like, I want to say it was the next day, but it might have been like the next week at some point. My mom called me, and she's like, my mom called and she wants to talk to you. And my mom does not talk to her mom. Like they've met like less than like four times in their whole life. They don't talk.
Wow.
But grandma reached out to me, and I talked to grandma Betty, and she had a near-death experience, and she thought of
Mm.
me. She
Mm.
never met me, this woman, but she had her near-death experience like that same time that I had that vision in the sweat lodge.
Wow.
And so I knew there was something there that I had to go back to the homelands. And I went back and visited her, met her for the first time, got to connect with her, and visited her for a few years. I would come in the summer and I would come hang out with her and um, help her with things. And she's older. She had there was conflict with her mental health. She was she was telling me stories, and then thought that this person she was talking about, one of my cousins, she got him confused and thought maybe I was doing the same thing, which was she thought I was trying to move in. And I'm like, Grandma, I'm not trying to live here. I'm not trying to live in your little apartment. Like, I don't need your tribal housing. Like, I'm not trying to do that. But she thought I was because she got old people sometimes they just like they get confused and it happens. So I didn't talk to her
Mhm.
for a
Yes.
few years, and I was scared. I felt rejected by her. I felt abandoned.
Mm.
And but I was really grateful for the stories that she was able to tell me. This woman would wrangle wild horses in the 60s and sell them to the fucking cowboys. Excuse my language.
Wow.
But like
No, we're only
badass.
real here.
Unfiltered.
Yes.
So anyways, this is getting long, but now I've made the jump to move back to my homelands, and I am now living on Indian land, and
Yay.
I'm taking care of my ancestors' grave sites. I
Wow.
have fixed them up, and we cleared them and fixed the headstones, and I trace back my lineage, and I'm learning where I come from. I'm learning my language. I am a granddaughter of genocide, but my culture didn't die, and it won't die with me. and
Beautiful.
colonization is not going to get the best of my people, and my
That's
children will
right.
know where we come from.
Absolutely. And may it be
Oh,
so. Oh.
so that's what I'm about. That's my story.
Ooh, I just got chills. So many chills. Oh my goodness. Ooh, the universe
You.
heard that. Wow. Thank you for sharing all of that. That's honestly very beautiful. I have one more question for you.
Hmm.
If you if you could share with the world, with the people, um, but you know the universe is always taking it all in. How do you intend, you have answered some of it, but I wanted to just be your answer. How do you intend and how do you feel like you already are on doing your part to create a better world here than before you got here?
This is all it's all been coming into focus just in the past week, honestly. Um, it's through sound, it's through women's support groups, and really the challenges, the abuse that I've endured, that I've experienced, even though it's mild compared to a lot of people's cases. I mean, the reality is that like 1 in 3 women will be sexually abused in their lifetime.
Mm,
I think maybe it's 1 in 3 Native women, but I think that all women are at risk.
yes.
So for me, it's taking those traumatic experiences and creating, I've already created my own transformation. I've already felt I don't carry them with heaviness anymore. I don't cry when I talk about my trauma anymore. And for me, m creating space for women to heal from those wounds, to
Hmm.
heal from the generational wounds of being separated from their culture. Like, let's get real. Europeans were the first ones to experience genocide here.
Hmm.
And they just did the same thing they did that their oppressors did to them on Turtle Island. So this
Hmm.
ain't new.
Right.
The colonization is not 200 years old. Colonization is 2,000 years old. This shit's been happening for a long ass time. And for me, it's the grassroots. It's on the each personal connection with one-on-one, or
Yes.
in a group of 5, or in a group of 8. And it's the work that I'm doing. And so that work is offering sound baths, sound
Hmm.
journeys that are not your typical airy fairy uh LA girl with the crystal bowls. Like, okay, yes, I'm from LA. Not from LA, but I grew up in LA. And yes, I have crystal bowls, but it's bringing that level of authenticity to those healing spaces, and not this filter of I'm perfect and healed.
Yes.
No, like I'm a real person with
Hmm.
issues that is still working through my issues. I'm not perfect. I'm not claiming I'm perfect or healed, but but also being an example of courage, of being
Yes.
able to voice my experiences, and then giving others permission to do the same thing, and at the rate that they feel comfortable with. Also, somatic healing, breath work, dance, somatic expression. That is something that I think a lot of it's gaining momentum, because we can overanalyze and talk until we're blue in the face. But at the end
Right.
of the day, our cells and our genetic memories that are in our bodies are just going to like keep vibrating at that frequency until we do
Hmm.
something about it.
Yes.
So,
Well said.
so the way that I'm creating change in the world is through my groups, through my support groups, through my sound journeys. And I have this vision of offering this to people across the country, across the world, offering retreats.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I feel really humble, and it's hard for me to put myself fully in the spotlight of,
Right.
I don't want to come from ego.
Mm-hmm.
So I want for a reach, but I also don't want to compromise my integrity.
I understand that very much. And if I could share with you from my own experience, is very abbreviated, is with this podcast and any other works that I do out in the world publicly, but this podcast in particular, The Cosmic Heart, I've asked the universe to show me the vision. And because I said, I don't want to be put my face out there and be the only, I'm not trying to be the star of the show here. I understand I have to be the host. This is me. This is my role, right? But I was shown so vividly and it was so clear. Hold the space spiritually on a soul level, heart to heart, soul to soul with every individual that I speak with, and allow you the opportunity to give to the world what it is that you have to share, and support the light workers, the healers, the ancient ones, anybody and everybody that spirit calls to me and says that person right there, put them on the stage, give them the opportunity, share them with the world, let the world find them through your podcast, through the work that you're doing. And then that is my role. That then it became clear. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
it's not all about me in this body and who I am in this life. It's about me giving on a soul level and the physical level the opportunity to amplify and push out those that are trying to do the work here to help the world, to make it a better place, and just give you an opportunity to just shine. I mean, so many of these podcasts are about me, self, 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 ego, ego, ego. How good can I physically, present myself, and it's the set and over sexualizing things in a way that's not honoring and to sacred sexuality and things like that. To each their own. Whatever gets you to where you need to go, do that, be that. It's honestly no judgment from me. I just I set myself apart by just being authentically myself. And that is me in my most authentic form. Is I love helping, guiding, assisting. I on a soul level, I'm, you know, a different kind of soul. And I realize this is how I can personally help this world become a better place, is helping you guys. I mean, you're a very special soul to me, but there's so many sacred people, beings, souls here that are just waiting for the opportunity and they have no idea where to start or how to do all this stuff. And it's like, okay, I'll do the work, I'll put it together, I'll create the platform and let them come,
I love
that's my,
that.
and
I
so I
love
share.
that.
Thank you. And so I share that with you because maybe it'll help you whenever you do start reaching a bigger audience globally, where you're like, okay, yes, I have to be the face of this. Yes, technically you are the star of the show, right? But it's, as you know, you're the vessel. So we're just holding that space through this body and this particular experience that we're having, each experience that we have, to facilitate the healing journey within each individual by being the oversoul, calling in spirit, calling in the universal love, calling in the light of creation to hold that sacred space for their individual journey. Yes, it might be a group setting. Yes, it might be a group healing, but every individual is now held in a sacred space that only we can provide because we've gone through all the incarnations and soul experiences to expand our auric field so big that we can hold more light of creator and the universe because our soul has evolved to be a bigger soul. And so when you move forward in your work, you can have like a more like different way of like different mindset on it of like, yeah, you're going to be the star. Okay. But if you don't put yourself out there and get yourself out in a more global scale, then the way I look at it is I don't want to have regret at the end of this life. And my
Yeah.
soul came in to do bigger work. If I play mediocre and small for my whole life, I know my soul's going to have regret.
Yeah. Totally.
So I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for my mission. I'm doing it for
Yeah.
my children. I'm doing it
Well,
for
and
the
the
people.
service.
Yeah. I'm doing it for the people that if I don't, they're never going to find me. They're never going to have the help that I came here to bring. And then I feel like I failed if I don't.
Well, and like you said, your mission. I feel like a lot of people in our generation are born that are in this life, in this time period right now. They had this feeling as children. This is the 144,000 light workers thing where you feel like your destiny, like you're destined
Mm-hmm.
to do great things.
Mm-hmm.
And you are. You are destined to do great things. No, having that inner knowing as a child, it also is a lot of pressure,
Yes.
especially for those of us that are raised in environments where we have high expectations on education and career. And then when that flops and we feel lost, we forget our greater mission. It's not about
Mm-hmm.
money. It's not about accomplishments or how many different certifications you can get of different healing modalities. It's about your soul development that you're talking about and being able to
Yes.
hold more light. And it's hard to remember that sometimes because like survival mode sucks. And I've been in
Mm-hmm.
survival mode a lot in my life. And I think a lot of
Me too.
people that are on this path of being a change maker have experienced similar things.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I feel like this podcast and any other ways of connecting globally like this are so integral and important is because we are all relating. We need that opportunity to connect in order to have that relation. And so when that one person that needed it hears what we have to share, they're going to share that with other people, and that's going to continue, and they're going to share it, and they're going to share it, and those people are going to share it, and it ripples and ripples and ripples. So then it's like we don't think, in these little episodes here, like doing stuff like this, it's like, okay, well, I don't know where this is all going to go and where it's going to go in the world. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it's going to go where it's supposed to go. And then you
Yeah.
do the next thing, and then that thing happens, and that's going to go where it's supposed to go. And you do the next thing, so it's like, stop focusing on telling myself, but it's like, stop focusing on all the things that you're doing and what's going to happen with that thing. Just do it because you're divinely inspired, and then do
Mm,
the next thing. Do the next thing.
mhm.
It's a
Oh,
journey. It's a journey.
oh.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I feel so honored and so blessed and so grateful to be one of your first guests on your show. And I'm really
I'm
excited to
honored.
see how far it goes.
Thank you. I'm honored
And
to have you on. You're special.
we're all special, but some of us have that spark, and you and I have such a deep reflection of each other. And I just want to say how proud I am to know you and to call you my friend and my ally, and that for those of you that are listening, if you are interested or curious about how to lead your own women's circles, how to play the Native American flute, or you want help with generational trauma healing, please find me on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. I'm kind of like meh on, but I'm on there. But Domanique.MamaWolf on IG, and Dominique Ava on Facebook, AVA, and then Dama Mama Wolf. I really should streamline them so they're all the same, right? I mean, I'm not not the best at marketing myself.
We'll link, we'll go ahead and do links where we can, and I'll do some ads on the
Cool.
screen for, yes. Do you want to give an email or anything for direct contact for anybody if they're like, okay,
Sure.
I work with her directly?
Yeah, it's dominique.blackwolf@gmail.com.
Okay, perfect.
And Black Wolf is just how it sounds, no E at the end. And Dominique is DOMAN. So Dominique with an
Okay.
A.
All right.
I'm unique. Unique.
You are very unique. Love your spirit.
Thank you. I
All
love your
right.
spirit.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. And I definitely look forward to having you on future episodes and also seeing what you're getting ready to start doing, because I'm excited. I know you guys got some really cool stuff that you're working on. So I'm really excited to see how that goes.
Yes, yes. And if you're curious about Indigenous poetry and publishing your own books, please check out Shuina Sko. She's my partner and incredible Indigenous activist and poet. So that is poetry just is so helpful to
It
process
is.
emotions. It's so moving.
It
So
is.
that's something that I fell out of for a long time, and I'm jumped back into it in the past couple months, and I'm just so thoroughly grateful to be here and to be with you, Jessica. I always like call you Hope because I know you as Hope.
Yeah, well, that's my
My
middle
head,
name.
you're Hope.
All right. Well, I
Oh
love
my.
you, and I'm very honored to have you on, and I look forward to our future episodes for sure. Thank you.
Subkecha, thank you.
Mm. All right.
Incha.
I'll talk to you later.
Later.